Welcome to my royal life. 20 years as a royal photographer, accredited by Buckingham Palace, I'm going to tell you the untold stories behind my pictures. A lot of them you'll recognise and others you will have never seen before. The thrills and spills and adventures, that was my life.
So when was this photograph taken?
Well, it was a long time ago. I reckon it was probably about 1980 or thereabouts.
And was this your first picture of her?
I think it's unlike, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know. I don't recall. I would imagine it's one of the first that I've taken of her. I used to pack up work at Camera Press probably about 6 o'clock, and then I'd jump into my very swish company estate, Morris Minor. It wasn't Morris Minor, it was a mini estate, sky blue it was, horrible thing, and used to drive down from Russell Square in Bloomsbury in London, and used to drive down to what was pretty much my manor, because it's where my school was, the French Lycée. And very close by, there's an area called sort of between Gloucester Road and Earl's Court, and that's where Diana's flat was, apartment, was in a very posh block of flats. I think it was called Coleherne Court. And I would rock up, park, and then a lot of the time just sit in the car, waiting for her to come out. There were often other photographers there as well, and if I knew any of them, we'd get out the car and we would banter.
So were you told to go and take these pictures, or was this your decision?
Oh no. There was nobody to tell me to do this. So this was extracurricular activity. I was employed at Camera Press, but I mean, I would do this because at the time, Prince Charles, who is now king, was the most eligible bachelor in the world. And without putting too fine a point on it, the world was interested in who he was going to get married to. Now, he'd had many girlfriends, acquaintances before Diana, but I think the feeling was that, I think we all hoped that she was the one. I think that's the best way of putting it.
Was there something that made you think that? Why was she more serious than the other ones?
No, there wasn't really. I mean, to be honest with you, it was just like any woman that was dating Prince Charles was of interest. And photographs of her would be used in newspapers and magazines across the globe. So, yeah, you had to do it. You're a photographer. It's interesting.
And how many other people were there that day taking this picture?
Again, it's a bit of a guess, but actually, sort of in my mind, I can visualize the street, I can visualize the block of flats, and I can visualize the number of people. Usually, there would be probably about 7 or 8 photographers. You've got to remember that, that she was still working at the nursery in Pimlico, which was probably about 15 minutes drive away. And so there were sort of like rush hour times when photographers would turn up, i.e. when you knew she was going to get in her mini metro and drive to Pimlico. So that would be early in the morning, and then whatever time she would finish probably would be mid-afternoon. So that would be another one. So to turn up as I was really, it was potluck, if you got anything. So you really just, we're just hanging out there, really. The terminology was doorstepping. So we were doorstepping the young Diana in case she went out. So there would probably, during rush hour, rush hour photographers, there would probably be 15. There'd be probably 15 photographers, maybe, no, less probably, let's say 10. But there would be, in addition to that, there would be camera crews as well, obviously. And that got hotter and hotter the more or the longer her relationship with Prince Charles went on. So you'd start with sort of like the traditional BBC, ITV camera crews, and when it started getting more likely, then you'd have all the American camera crews, NBC, ABC, and then CNN, and Australian camera crews and Canadian. It just all went silly, really.
And how do you think she reacted to you being there?
Well, to be honest with you, I think this is where the shy die thing came from, because I imagine that for a young woman of that age, how old was she, 19? I think she was a little bit embarrassed, but thrilled by it as well, to be frank.
Is there anything else you remember about the moment of taking the photograph?
The moment of taking the photograph. So you've got to remember, as a photographer, we spend a lot of our lives walking backwards and without a care of what is behind us, because all our focus is on the subject that you're trying to photograph. So if you, let's say, I don't think this picture was done at one of the rush hours. I think it was done at a quieter time. And let's say that there are probably about 8 other photographers. When you're trying to take a picture of somebody who's walking towards you, there really are only 3 spots you can do it. So one directly in front of her, one slightly off to the left, one slightly off to the right. Anyone outside of that little area is going to get not a great picture. You're going to get a picture, but not the picture. So when you're walking backwards, you have one camera up the right lens, taking a picture with a flash on, boom, boom, boom. And you've probably got about 2 or 3 other cameras with longer lenses that are sort of like flying around, which can be quite useful, because actually as they fly around, they're bashing your competitors out of the way, including incredibly sharp elbows, which as a royal photographer, you have to sharpen your elbows. It's essential. So you'd be photographing like this, and this elbow would be holding whoever's next to you away, as with this one. At the same time, you have to remain very still. And in those days, we didn't have autofocus, so we'd be focusing at the same time, making sure the flash was working and taking pictures like crazy, hoping for the best.
And what was the process, the moment you knew you got the picture, what happened next?
Well, this particular picture, so was black and white. And so it was shot on film. And once I got the pictures, so I would rush back to camera press, so I could get in there at any time I wanted to. You dive into the little processing room, which was like a little tiny box room, and you would load up you close the door, no lights, pitch black. You load your film onto the spiral, and then you would put it into sort of like a rack, and then you would dunk it into the developer, and there would be a little clock that you would start. I can't remember how long you did it for, 5 minutes or something like that. And then it was always a bit hope for the best, It was always a bit, oh God, I hope I get this right. And then there was a very faint green light that was hanging off the ceiling in the developer room. And you would be able to, probably at about 5 minutes, you'd be able to take the spiral out and then unreel a little bit of film and then hold it up to this very faint light so you could see what was on the film. And from that, you would judge whether you had to leave it in the developer longer or not. And then you would fix it and wash it and put it in a dryer. And then into the dark room, where you would create a contact sheet, which is basically your cut bits of film, which are about 5 frames long. and you'd lay them on a bit of photographic paper, put a bit of glass over the top, expose it with the enlarger, and then put it again, developer fix. Then you had a print, then you put it through the dryer, which were these fabulous machines. They were like big stainless steel rolling machines that heated from the inside and would dry your print, and it would pop out all curly, and then you would sort of like bend it back, and then you would then go out into the office with your loop, and you would run through your pictures, and with a special pen, I can't remember the name of the pen, it was like a wax pen, and you would select the pictures that you wanted to print. So you'd put a little square around it and a cross, and then you go back in the darkroom and print to your heart's content, and then go out and choose really the best pictures. So you would choose a set of pictures. You wouldn't just choose one picture. You would try and have, if you could, I mean, on this occasion, you couldn't really, somebody walking down the street, you try and create a picture story, something that would tell a story.
And were you happy with this picture when you first saw it?
I was overjoyed with this picture. Yes, it was sharp to begin with, which was, I was going to say a rarity. That's not true. All my pictures were pin sharp. And so no, I was very, very happy with it. You can tell that it's quite an old picture because it was in black and white. We very, very quickly moved on to shooting colour because really the market for these photographs, certainly from my perspective, were magazines around the world.
So where was this photograph sold?
This picture was sold, as far as I remember, I mean, this is, down to my cuttings books, really. There was an enormous amount of interest in Germany, everywhere, really, but primarily centered on European countries that would include Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. There was equal amount of, massive interest in the States and Canada. I guess English-speaking countries like New Zealand, Australia were all very, very interested. And they were, in essence, our main market, really.
And what was the process? How did you get it out to all those countries?
So I was working at an agency called Camera Press that was run by my father. So I would then go and see him the following day with my contact sheet in his office and the prints that I had done, and I would lay them out for him. And he was a really hard taskmaster. If he didn't like what I'd done, he'd just say, he would just dismiss me and go, "That's rubbish, it's appalling, go and try again." But on this occasion, clearly, there were quite nice pictures. And there weren't, you've got to remember that, that these sort of pictures had rarity value. So that's what made them saleable. And everybody wanted pictures of this young woman. And so I went up to him. He would select the set, which on this occasion probably is not many, probably about 3 pictures. And in those days, not like digital now, where you can just send it all off within a fraction of a second. Those pictures, selected pictures, would be sent down to the darkroom, and somebody would print probably about 60 prints of each image in order for those pictures then to be collated into a set of 3. Then a caption would be done and stuck on the back of the picture, and then those pictures are then stuck in envelopes and then sent off to other photo agencies around the world.
Was there a lot of competition with your fellow photographers to get your pictures out and be published?
Oh, yes, phenomenal. I mean, the whole business was about competition. You wouldn't think twice. You would do anything to get one over on your competition. We just wouldn't hold back at all. We were vicious and nasty, and we had big sharp teeth, but we were mostly gentlemen about it. you know, like the sort of the idea of like the British gentleman that actually would happily stick a knife in you. I think that's what we were. We all got on really, really well, you know, and the people that I worked with had marvelous sense of humor. You know, I mean, we would laugh and laugh and laugh, and they were great people. Tough. I think we were all quite a tough bunch, actually.
What was the feeling when you would see one of your photographs in print?
Oh, well, that is the whole raison d'être for a photographer. There's no point taking a picture if it doesn't get published, as far as it was concerned. And my colleagues, I would imagine. I mean, later on, I can remember, you know, getting ready to go on a flight somewhere on a rural tour, and the standard visit would always be to the local newsagents in the terminal. So London, W.H. Smith's, and then you walk around, you'd see all the foreign magazines, and when and you'd be going through every single magazine that you knew you were selling into, but when you saw a cover on the bookshelf, on the bookstands, that was, you know, just elated. It was fantastic. You know, have one of those, get on the plane and go sit next to your competition and go, cover of Perry Match, huh? Oh, well done. But yeah, no, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful feeling. Getting published is a great feeling. And with your byline, of course, which is great.
Do you miss those days?
No, I don't miss them, but I'm very pleased that I had them. They gave me experiences that you could never, ever repeat. To follow, I was about to say to follow that lot, but to follow the British royal family around the globe was an enormous, well, now, at the time, I didn't think about it, but now is an enormous privilege. You know, to be accredited by Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace when they would go on tours. Incredible, little old me, you know, from my mum, one-bedroom flat in London. I mean, it's crazy, you know, and then to live this wild life of jumping on and off planes and traveling all over the UK and in the end chartering boats, planes and automobiles. You know, I mean, it's a mad, exciting, wonderful, wonderful life.
And how can people get hold of a copy of this print?
Well, I've sort of been quite reluctant about this because I'm not crazy about this. I don't like it when photographers, you know, flog their stuff. But here I am, here I am selling myself. Sorry. And so yeah, you know, this picture, I told you the story, I suppose, behind it. And if there are people who would like it, then they can buy it, and I'll even sign it.
Excellent.
So there you go, and I don't want to do sort of like thousands of them. I mean, just like a nice, tight little limited edition, and I don't know if they would ever be worth anything, but it's worth something to me. A lot of my hard graft went into these, and now I look at it all and I think, wow, this is actually my life's work, really. I guess that's really sort of like my only legacy from my life is this collection of pictures. So without putting too fine a point on it, it's quite important.